the fidelity of the data could be enhanced either by having a better optical resolution, right? So are they zooming in more? Are we seeing the Earth better in some way at a closer magnification or through some sort of capture of optical data that wasn't captured before? I'm not sure, right? Visual or non-visual. You can capture all sort of electromagnetic signals.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our #1 priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hello, happy Friday. Welcome to another edition of Analysts Gone Wild. And today we don't have Robert, so I'll be your host. Sam Gupta, principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent vendor agnostic technology advisory firm. On that note, let's go to Michael Yu for your intro.
Sure. Michael Fawcett, the founder, CEO at Arian Research, and we focus a lot on the intersection of AI, agentic AI, particularly in enterprise applications across all the different domains, ERP, CRM, a lot of CX involved there too, but across the stack. So.
Yeah, amazing. I think we are going to have a lot of stories for you, Michael, today. And I think we have very special stories for Brian as well. He's going to appreciate these. Not as much ERP, a lot more, development and DevOps. And AI. Ken, over to you. Okay, we cannot hear you, Ken. I think you are on mute. Sorry.
That I muted it so you didn't have a lot of background noise. Not a lot of stories for me. I mean, come on.
We have a lot for you as well.
Otherwise known as Ken Dunn, founder and lead advisor at Pretty Simple Group, covering CIO topics, infrastructure and operations, and all manner of things in between.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Ken. Brian, over to you.
Yeah, hello, everybody. Glad to hear there's lots of stories for me, I guess. I'm ready to talk, as always. I'm Brian Jackson. I'm a principal research director at Infotech Research Group. We cater to enterprise clients looking to solve any problem related to IT, deploy agentic AI, anything that you can come up with. Infotech has a blueprint for it, has an expert ready to help you solve your problems. And for my focus, I'm looking at emerging technologies.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Brian. And if you're in the audience, we always appreciate your comments, experiences. So make sure you guys post them in the comment box. We'll be going over each of them as we go through the show. Now I'm actually going to run the first story here. So the first story is Reshift Media. And I don't know, I've probably never heard of them, I guess. I don't know about you guys. So this is the first time we are covering on Analysts Gone Wild as well. And this is probably 60th episode. I think we have done maybe closer to 60, more than a year. So we have covered a lot of different firms, but not this one. Okay. So here they have launched a Franify. And from my experience, I don't know if you guys have done any sort of work in this particular industry. And I know a lot of you don't like to talk about micro industries, but each of the micro industries have their own nuances, even for CRMs. So here, my understanding is that this is more of the CRM play. That is number one. Number two, in the franchise space, there are many different CRMs that have specific capabilities for those. My recollection is that ActiveCampaign does really well in this particular space, just because they have a lot of branding assets that they need to share among different franchises. I don't know if we have come across any other platforms that are going to have specific capabilities for that. So I can see some value here. In this particular case, they are doing some amazing things, for this particular micro vertical. Over to you guys. I'll add more colors. I don't know if you guys want to start.
Yeah, it's just interesting to see a different approach in terms of the target on a business model, right? Like in a sense, a franchise business model is more of a horizontal aspect of an organization where you can have a franchise business model in many different verticals, right? So you can have your fast food franchises, which we're all familiar with. You can have car dealerships. You can have retailers, right? So typically these days we're seeing more AI stacks built around those sort of vertical expertise. But here they're saying, okay, but what about for all of those that operate this type of business model? There's some efficiencies we can drive to. There's some advantages to it. And I just wonder, is there room for both, right? Or do you sort of have to choose one way to operate? And how do you make that decision?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, and I don't know if other people are going to have, any comments there on that question. From my experience, Brian, the business model aspect is very important. The operating processes that you are going to have around that specific business model that you pointed out, and yes, that is going to be across the industry, so their needs are going to be very similar. That's why some of the enterprise software vendors they take verticalized approach. I would say from the platform implementation perspective, it does matter, because if you have to build all of those capabilities in a horizontal platform, uh, it becomes very tricky in my personal experience. Yeah.
I mean, franchise marketing in general is something that's been underserved in MarTech for quite a while. So I do think it's interesting from that perspective. I mean, there are some competitors, like I know Yext does a lot of that franchise or franchisee view, sort of local marketing, and a few others. But it is interesting. I mean, it is certainly an area that the idea of micro verticals, particularly in something like this 2-tier franchise or franchisee, is interesting, and it hasn't been broadly served by a lot of the industry, I think, in general.
Yeah. Ken, any comments from your side? Any other follow-ups on this story?
So I was definitely not familiar with them prior to seeing this. And the thing I just kind of resonate with personally is that a lot of times franchises are more notable from a regional perspective.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's kind of like things that serve the brands that you know and trust, even from a local to a regional perspective, probably don't get the love they deserve. So I think that being able to see something like this is actually really cool.
Yeah, and you are right. I mean, sometimes from the franchise perspective, when you look at the corporate branding control, and that's where these platforms are going to be handy. They have to sometimes retain the localized flavor as well, and the platform must support the local needs too. And that's where the trick is. It's not as easy, I guess, overall, from the implementation perspective. Any other comments on this story, or do you want to move to the next
Yeah,
one?
just before we let it flip by, I do cater to a couple of clients in that are working in a franchise, and what they're saying here does speak to some of the pain points that are experienced when you're the CEO of a franchise organization. You're having to balance between the IT stack that's handed down to you from the central office, and then there's some room to operate within the local margins that you get, which is usually not too much, right? So some of the pain points of that when you're given technology from a central office is you aren't able to control and tweak all of the configurations that you want, or you don't have those local resources to maybe set up things in a way that optimizes it to take full advantage for you. So you're getting the benefit of that efficiency and the cost savings and everything that comes with a franchise model. But could you maximize it in some way? And I think this is trying to split those hairs, because you're deploying this as the franchise central office. You deploy the system, and then you give the localization. You have the ability to do have the local menu, so that if you're McDonald's France, you can sell the Royale with cheese, right, as opposed to the Big Mac. And these are the crucial marketing differentiation points that you want to get across.
Exactly, could not agree more. More points, guys. If you don't have anything else, we can move to the next one. Okay, so here again, another CX social sort of a story, and Sprinkler. They are also in the CX space. So here they are talking about unveiling of next wave of AI native customer experience innovation, and this is the release that they are talking about. And then obviously they have improved agent performance. I mean, we have seen similar stories in the past as well. Michael, you're probably going to have a lot more insights here. I think everybody is sort of working on very similar capabilities. Here they are talking about VOC capabilities with customer, feedback co-pilot, and I don't know what is the real difference between different vendors. We don't have tangible insights here. What this would bring to the table versus some of the other ones that we have seen. They are also talking about bringing conversational automation to social and paid workflows. I mean, great, but I mean, I don't know how many people would really use these co-pilots. Maybe some, I don't know. But if you are going to have an interface in between, in my personal experience, when you are doing ad management, it doesn't work as well. Most people, as far as my understanding goes, use the real Google interface. That itself is very tricky to manage. So I don't know if anybody is going to use those. Maybe they would. I don't know. Maybe they don't have as much skill set, or maybe they don't have agencies. Sometimes they are not working through agencies. Most agencies would probably use something like Google to manage this. So those are some comments from my side. What do you guys think on this story?
I mean, this is this is a move into trying to position themselves as a system of intelligence. So they're trying to lay out all these different pieces that you can evaluate, monitor in, and do this across all of those customer experience activities. From, is your AI agent in customer service performing the way you expect? Are they resolving issues? All the way to capturing voice of the customer and providing that feedback in, like Qualtrics or Medallia, one of those guys would do. So the idea is pretty comprehensive. System intelligence that listens, learns, automates, and acts across that whole CX interaction layer.
Yeah.
What that actually looks like, I mean, there are a bunch of different players moving in that direction. I mentioned Qualtrics and Medallia.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, Salesforce has gone there. If you look at Oracle CX, they have some capabilities there. It is definitely an area that's heated up a lot, and just tying in the capability to monitor, social and provide that input back, but it's tied together across all those other interactions. I think that's actually an interesting piece of it, but I don't know how unique that is compared to what else I've seen from some of the other vendors.
So, Michael, question for you. So, do you think Sprinkler's main competition is Qualtrics and Medallia that you mentioned? They are in the similar category. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think it's more from, and Medallia, of course, voice of the customer is important, and that's a piece of it.
Yeah.
Qualtrics has tried to position themselves as a layer to manage customer experience interactions and voice of the customer, collect that.
Yeah.
So I think, and Sprinkler's been a competitor in that world. So I do think that's the case, to try to position themselves as a system of intelligence that fits inside of your current CX infrastructure. But some of the native CX solutions also are moving in this direction. So, it's highly competitive, and it sort of it kind of points out the fact that you're going to see companies that are say, hey, I already have Salesforce, I'm going to use Agentforce to do a lot of these things, versus I'm going to layer in a solution that has this kind of comprehensive view and collecting data and providing that data back. So it's a move that tries to position them in that more Medallia Qualtrics world.
So the last bullet that we have, I mean, they are talking more about social listening, as far as my understanding goes, in that they are saying filter out noise and surface only social, and like that whole social listening category is very different as far as my understanding goes. Qualtrics, I don't believe Qualtrics like to compete in a real social listening PR, sort of.
No, but they compete directly in voice of the customer, and this takes Sprinkler into more than just social listening. That is an important data endpoint, no question about that. Medallia does that as well, but the idea of tying voice of the customer back into all those different interaction points, and so Qualtrics does it more by survey. But that is still capturing voice.
Just to pick up there on your line of thought, Sam, with what you're saying about seeing that social media and the social listening part of it. For me,
Yeah,
with the brand recognition for me with Sprinkler is on that social product, and I think that's where the
exactly.
brand might have the best foothold here in the market. And I understand the compulsion for a company to go up the stack and try to create some sort of agentic AI platform.
Yeah.
And you're seeing a lot of competition in that space here. But
Mhm.
as we're already hearing, right, they have competition there with the Salesforces of the world, with the Qualtrics of the world, perhaps.
Mm.
And I wonder, is Sprinkler really best positioned with their enterprise customers to try to create that agentic layer? Are they that centrally embedded to the workflow, or are they better off maybe on just focusing on where their specialty lies in that social media listening space, in the social media automation space, social media marketing? If you could deliver me some agents that would and make that workflow more efficient and do more for my company in that space, I think it would be much more attention getting. Here, it's sort of ambiguous, right? A lot is
Yeah.
left up to the enterprise.
Mhm.
A lot is left up to the customer to know how to connect to workflows, what data you're going to bring into the system. Like there's a little bit more to get to that value. You have to take it the last mile. So
Yeah.
I just wonder if a strategy to focus on here's some ready-made agents you can deploy today out of the box might be more appealing, and maybe that's coming.
Well, some inside of that, for that AI studio offering part of it, that no code workspace, it does actually have some monitoring agents that are available inside of it already, from what I could tell, which actually probably puts it in that Hootsuite Sprout Social,
Yeah.
uh, excuse me, category as well, and Adobe Experience Cloud, which they just updated and did a big announcement over that over a couple of weeks ago at Summit too.
Yeah. Great points, guys. Great debate. Can anything from your side, or do you guys want to move to the next one?
Let's just move to the next one. It's okay.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Let's see if we have any other comments here. All right. So here we are talking about Newbird AI, and this is a very interesting story. I'm pretty sure, Brian, you are probably going to have a lot to say here. This is something they are doing from the enterprise, production operations perspective. So this is really in that custom development deployment space. I think we have 2 or 3 different stories doing very similar things. Here they are talking about accelerating that. Obviously, I mean, from my perspective, I guess, and I don't know if this is just a observability tool, or is it going to be more than that? Maybe agentic layer to automate all of the deployment problems. So, what's your take, guys, on this particular story? What are they doing?
It looks
Well,
to me like it's moved towards that AI ops category and trying
Yeah,
to enable that. But I got to admit, Sam, when I read this, I went $20 million is kind of not much.
exactly. I mean, $20 million is what, maybe $200 million valuation for a startup. I mean, that's nothing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not. I mean, and in this space, particularly, you have to wonder. AI ops for AI, it is important. I think AI ops is one of those topics that's going to get a lot of discussion this year. But is that enough to actually give them that runway to get to something that is valuable there? I'm not sure.
Yeah. So I don't know if they. Sorry, Brian, go please.
Yeah. Go ahead.
okay, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, it looks like a startup that's positioning itself for acquisition, right? They're targeting a very small slice of the software development life cycle here and one that comes a little bit later in that life cycle than we've typically seen AI deployed so far, right? Where there's a lot of focus right now on the code, on documenting the code, on resolving issues with the code, things like that. But this is like, hey, let us help you automate your backlog and feedback issues and manage all the work that happens around your production environment. So I think that is a little bit of a unique problem space. How desirable it is, I'm not sure it's compelling enough that you go and like acquire this as a point solution, or you might not see too much traction there. But it is a compelling part of a bigger picture solution for your to manage your whole software development lifecycle, right? So Newbird AI, right? They could just be looking for that big company that wants to own that whole space to buy them up sometime.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that makes
Brian,
sense. And I think it is an interesting. There is a lot of movement towards building out this function, but again, it probably is more of a small acquisition candidate than anything.
Yeah. So, Brian, you deal with a lot of different CIOs. I mean, this should be a low-hanging fruit, I would say, from the agentic automation perspective, as far as my understanding goes of AI capabilities. Are you seeing a lot of inquiries in your space? Are you are you getting a lot of players who are coming to you that might have similar capabilities?
Like I say, this is actually a pretty new area of the software development lifecycle that I've seen
Yeah.
targeted so far. Now, it's a pain point for sure. Our
Yeah.
CIO clients are always talking to us about how to better do their intake of resolve problems in their production environments. How can we get ahead of the problem before it becomes a fire? How do we spend less time resolving them, or even automate resolution of the most common incidents? So I think it is a sweet spot potentially, because I haven't seen a lot of solutions that are too similar to this.
Okay, perfect. More comments on the story? No? We can move to the next one then. Okay. Okay, so here, this is very interesting what they are trying to do here. And I don't know how realistic that is and how this is gonna go. So I was really trying to wrap my head around the story. So, and I don't know what exactly they are trying to monitor. So here, this is the based on the story, if my recollection is right, then they were trying to claim that they would like to map the whole Earth, I guess, and that's what Google does. So here they are talking to sensors as well, because that's a kind of partnership that they have with the L3 Harris Technologies, is the company that is mentioned. But a couple of comments here. So they are saying developing a satellite, constellation, and I have zero understanding of that space, to be completely honest. Okay, I don't know if you guys have done any sort of work in this space to collect precise data aimed at deep learning models. So, I mean, which data are we talking about? Those are going to be some of my questions, and I don't know if there are going to be any sort of implications. Are we talking about traffic patterns? Some people have already done that. Then their claim is that this was only available for the government buyers, and now they are doing for the private companies as well. So I don't know how that's going to go, if government is going to be okay with that. So those are some of the comments. I'll have more probably, but I want to open up the floor.
Well, again, with the numbers reaction, 130 million to do satellite data collection. That's not very much.
You haven't even funded one satellite yet, right?
No, I know. I was like, okay,
yeah.
I don't know.
It's early days, I guess. But look, we can tell that this is going to be a successful $1 trillion company because they have two O's in their name. And what we've learned over the years
that is true. You're right.
Every company that has two O's,
two O's and a PLE. I mean, come on.
Yeah, Microsoft. And so it's destiny that it will be successful. We know that. But the space constellation, the idea of having all these satellites space, what they're looking to do is simply put cameras in orbit that look at the Earth and refresh the data on a pretty often basis. And as you pointed out, Sam, there's not a lot of detail in here to know exactly what they're planning on doing, but you look at who they're working with, L3 Harris Technologies, and I think this is setting themselves up for some sort of defense-oriented solution space, right? And I've seen geospatial satellites. I shouldn't say geospatial. I might be misusing that term. Let's just stick with satellites. Satellite solutions that deliver intelligence that can when we're talking about military grade intelligence, you can be at the level now where you maybe are tracking vehicles throughout a city to identify a target, and then what you do is you combine that also with drone and other aerial flybys of an area to enhance that. So when they talk about being at 3 times the fidelity of other solutions on the market, there's two ways that we could look at that, right? So the fidelity of the data could be enhanced either by having a better optical resolution, right? So are they zooming in more? Are we seeing the Earth better in some way at a closer magnification, or through some sort of capture of optical data that wasn't captured before? I'm not sure, right? Visual or non-visual can capture all sort of electromagnetic signals. Or are they just refreshing it more often? And that would be a lot easier than the first one, right? So if you just have a satellite that is in the an area of the right area of the Earth and can update that what's happening in that region with pictures more often than other solutions. And now you're getting multiple updates a day, right? Like everybody likes to notice when things in Google Earth change from one year to another. This is a pastime that you can find Reddit threads on and whatnot. But imagine having that capability, and they make reference here to like your construction site, and trying to monitor it from a business point of view and understand what signals you're getting to, and what intelligence that is giving you about uh, threats to your construction project. So that's the angle that I'm seeing here.
I mean, it's interesting too that use case sort of jumps out at you, right? I mean, if it's defense and intelligence, that's one end, but then there's agricultural and crop monitoring, which could be a different one, or climate and ESG reporting, or supply chain, logistics, real estate, infrastructure. I mean, there's a lot of use cases it could be, but I couldn't tell from this where they were actually trying to focus, and if it was, truly um, competitive from that perspective. You'd think you'd have to look to the micro vertical, Sam, to your earlier
Yeah.
point. Micro verticals here seem like it's going to make a big deal difference.
Yeah, and each micro vertical, I would say, are going to have their own nuances in terms of how they are going to work. Right, crop is very different than any other verticals.
Yep.
The cost argument, and I don't know if I remember the cost numbers from SpaceX. My understanding is that they were able to do at roughly what, $2 million. That's my recollection on the satellite, or maybe I'm messing here. They were able to.
That's for launch, I think, Sam. The launch economics have shifted with SpaceX, but when you talk about unit costs, that's different.
How much is the unit cost for SpaceX right now?
I don't know what it is for SpaceX. I know the launch cost has gone down. I think you're right, 2 million ish. But as far as unit economics, it depends on the unit, right? It depends on the capabilities of the unit. And I couldn't tell from this. It seems 130 doesn't sound like a lot, I guess.
Yeah. So I remember some comments from his autobiography, I guess, Elon Musk, right? And he was talking about that, okay, he wanted to subcontract that to Russia first. They were quoting roughly $8 million for a rocket, or, I don't know if that was satellite. I don't think I can tell.
Yeah. So I'll Google it for you guys here in the background.
That'd be useful.
Yeah, Sam is right that the V1 of the SpaceX satellite was 2 million, but now they've got it down to 800,000 apparently, right? But keep in mind, like, not all satellites are made equal, right? So is a SpaceX satellite that's designed for, I don't know, internet communication, or I'm not sure exactly the capabilities on that. Can you, Zupel here, it wants to make the highest fidelity Earth observation satellites. So what's the unit cost of that going to be? That you're putting cutting edge optical sensors on this thing. So that could be a lot higher.
More comments, guys? No? Okay, we can move to the next one. All right. Now we have ERP. Okay, it might get a little boring now. Okay, so we have Objectiv. Objectiv is a newer ERP player. And I mean, they are not doing anything special here, as far as my understanding goes. It just AI offering. You need to have AI from the ERP perspective. Every single ERP vendor is launching some sort of AI layer. So here they are talking about Objectiv 1, which is very common across any ERP vendors that were created because of acquiring maybe 200 different companies. And now they have to figure out, okay, what to do with those 200 companies, how to sell, because you have to align from marketing perspective, you have to align from product strategy perspective. So here they are talking about one, but I don't know what all one is going to include. Generally, one includes, for example, let's say if you go to SAP portfolio or Epicor portfolio, they have UX standards that they have normalized so that does not come across 200 different products. Then you have the integration strategy across those products that they are trying to do as well. So I think these guys are similar too, but I mean, this is more from the AI perspective, because from AI standpoint as well, you need to have cohesive strategy across those 200 products that you have. Those would be my comments. What do you guys think?
I mean, that's what the current players are doing, embedding it across all their applications. That to me is logical. Now, how do they do that when they're a conglomeration of a bunch of acquired pieces, the integration debt ends up being the real issue, I think, there. But it does fit with kind of the other players from Infor and Epicor all the way up to what Oracle's doing.
Yeah, great comments, Michael. Anybody else has any other comment? If we don't, then I can move to the next one. Next one? Okay. Okay, so here we have AppDirect, and I'm not sure if anybody covers this space or if you are going to have any sort of insights here. This is the B2B subscription commerce platform, and they have done a lot, and this is very different, I would say. Even if you talk to folks that claim themselves as B2B experts, they might say that, what is AppDirect? I have no idea. I think they are more into the SaaS space. That's my understanding, and this is going to be the tech data, Ingram Micro, the channel-centric spaces from the technology perspective. And I think, Ken, you have spent a lot of time in this IT-centric spaces, IT reselling space. Brian, you would have a lot of, insights here as well, because these are the vendors that are dealing with IT buyers. And here we are talking about partner relationship management. That is going to be the whole sales cycle of these technology players. And then the SaaS products also, they are very consumerized and they are sometimes sold in the B2B setting. So that's where I guess AppDirect is doing a lot of work. Now they are talking about creating the unified subscription commerce platform for partner-led growth. And again, this is going to be very common in the technology SaaS space. That's where you have a lot more indirect, selling. They have marketplace selling as well here that they have mentioned. So those are my comments. What do you guys think? No comments.
Well, I mean, the only part that jumped out at me, I have looked at PRM, partner relationship management in the past. Like Salesforce has an app there that's been, an offering there that's been pretty pervasive through the partner channels. Yeah. So it is something that's interesting, I guess. But I don't know. I don't know that much about the kind of where this has gone over the last few years, though.
Yeah, the space is really tricky, I guess. That's a subsegment. And sometimes people might put them into the CRM space because even Salesforce used to claim, if I remember, Michael, you will have more background because you do cover Salesforce. If they have done anything related to SRM, but then CRM companies have moved that, okay, let me focus on my customers. Even the suppliers could be customers as well, but those are not real customers, right? And then for supplier relationship management, you have platforms such as your P2P, you are going to have Coupas of the world, you have Aribas of the world. That's a very different play, very different interaction. Now we are seeing one more trend that the whole collaboration space and the supplier, and these are not even relationship management, they are more of the transaction management platform. They are integrating with a lot of different financial consolidation software category as well. More comments, guys?
It looked like they were trying to move into the marketplace infrastructure too, right? So like the current, a lot of vendors have built marketplaces over the last few years, and it did it does talk a bit about partner-led, marketplace-led growth. So I mean, I guess there is definitely some interest for vendors who don't want to build their own marketplace to provide some of the infrastructure for that, maybe.
So just to be clear, in this particular case, the marketplace is not necessarily e-commerce marketplace because this is going to be...
It's a B2B marketplace.
Exactly. Yeah. Something like if you need to build the app exchange and you don't have infrastructure, you don't want to develop yourself, then you would use something like AppDirect, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I wanted to speak to some data insights that we got in this area because there's this talk of the SaaS apocalypse, right? We've seen those headlines, and that's sort of a silly term, right? It works well for a media headline, but what it speaks to is the underlying fatigue that we're seeing in the software subscription relationship between business and the software providers, and at the same time that we're seeing agentic AI mature and automate and deliver value. Businesses are looking at their software subscriptions, and it's pretty expensive. Some of these vendor offerings and it adds a lot to the operating budget, right? So the question is, why am I in this relationship where I'm subscribing to access to tools that don't necessarily or don't guarantee me value when I could be in a relationship where I'm paying directly for the outcomes to my that I need for my business. Right now, SaaS is going to clearly be growing for years to come, even though there's sort of a lot of headlines about the risk to it and the stock prices took a hit, all
Yeah.
of that. Like overall, the fundamentals are still pretty solid. But I do wonder if AppDirect is looking at that and a little bit worried about, hey, our whole business model is giving you access to all these different subscription options, but we're seeing some fatigue in the marketplace for that type of business relationship. So should we get ahead of that and go to PartnerStack here, integrate with them? They have a range of different business models, not just subscription based, and that gives us a bit of a hedge against fatigue in this one type of business model relationship that we're setting up.
So on that comment, Brian, do you think they'll rebrand themselves as AI Direct?
It's coming, you know it. Agent Direct is coming.
Agent Direct. I like
Agent
that's going to
Direct.
be it. Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
Not two O's in that one, but we can workshop it. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, I just, as I'm looking at this, I think about the different types of partner relationships that one has, especially in the B2B transactions. And that I'm just wondering how applicable this is across the range of different options that are available in the types of companies that might partner together.
So you mean like the question, and I don't know if anybody else wants to address this. So Ken, you are asking more from the partner relationship management perspective, how this platform is going to be relevant. So depending upon how deeply intertwined that is, from the sales cycle perspective, if the sales cycle is going to be very long standing, I don't know if AppDirect is the right platform for that. For the most part, as far as my understanding goes of these apps, that the kind of category that AppDirect is targeting, it's going to be really cash in, cash out. And I don't know if that is the right term, but you can literally buy swiping your credit card. So those are the kind of apps that you are going to have. Yes, they are doing the PRM component, and I don't know how thick that PRM component is going to be. For example, let's say if you are looking at the real ERP deal or CRM deal, that is going to be very long standing. Nobody is going to swipe their credit card just to buy an ERP. It doesn't work that way, right? So for those scenarios, I think it's going to be different. But this is really very cash centric transaction subscription, $15 per month, $30 per month for those cases. I would say, Ken, I don't know if I answered your question, but that would be my take on this.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
More comments, more questions on this? No? Okay, great question, Ken. Okay, let's move to the next one. Anthropic. Okay, so they have launched a new model on Amazon Bedrock, and I'm pretty sure Michael is going to have a lot to say on this one, and probably Brian too. You guys are tracking this very, very closely. I am not tracking these guys as closely. I would say I don't understand it well enough. John knows a lot, internally with respect to models as well. So here they are talking about enterprise grade infrastructure for production workloads. We have seen a lot of stories. In fact, I was looking at one story this morning, and they were arguing that, you don't even need prompts anymore. Can you believe this? And I was like, okay, I'm going to have a job. I'll learn how to do prompts, and maybe somebody will give me a job in the AI world. But now they are arguing that you are probably not going to have prompts either. So it's going to be machine-to-machine communication and machines, which is, in this case, probably agent, not machines. Agents are going to be able to talk to each other because they are going to send the signal. The signal itself is going to be prompt, right? But here they are talking about they are also talking about zero operator access. But zero operator access, meaning customer prompts responses are never visible, which is great. I think a lot of people have argued. I don't know how the SLAs are. Some vendors are arguing that they have that. I don't know if that is possible, to be completely honest. Sometimes that sounds like a sales pitch, but maybe these guys are able to do that. So what's your take on the story, guys?
I mean, there's a bunch of different pieces to this one, Sam. Like the model, the release itself, Opus 4.7 is by far their most powerful released model, I should say.
Yeah.
And it is very impactful. It is a, a very capable model. And then doing this, and making it available in Amazon Bedrock makes a lot of sense. And then the idea around Bedrock's next generation inference, can you use that then to do no prompt and isolate the prompt? That you are seeing that from other vendors as well, putting in a way to stand between the model and the data, and provide a layer of observability and protection. So that to me that does make some sense. But I think the underlying this, just the fact that you're starting to see this play out with Chat GPT 5 in on Azure, and Gemini 2.5 Pro on Vertex, and now Opus 4.7 on Bedrock. This frontier model sort of arms race has been heating up over the last 6 months, definitely.
Yeah, with this whole prompt-free approach to agentic AI, you do have to create your whole taxonomy of models to understand when does it take action? Is it fully automated, right? Is it ambient in the sense that there's a trigger that causes this agent to do an action?
Yeah.
Is it monitoring an environment at all times, ready to automate a workflow that is being set up? So there's that whole question. At some point, it should be linked back to what humans intend for it to do. So ultimately, you never get away from, like, if the prompt is the goal of what the AI should accomplish, let's not get away from that at the end of the day. But keep that in mind. Now, just to bring this back and like to explain maybe to people that aren't fully aware of like what is Amazon Bedrock and why is Anthropic Claude inside of Bedrock. Like Amazon Bedrock, right, is the platform for enterprises to develop their agentic AI workflows, right? So if you've got a development team that wants to go in and have your garden of LLMs available to you, and connect them to your different applications, to your different data sources, that's what Bedrock is for, right? So you've got all your tool sets in there. You've got your runtime, you've got your memory, you've got everything you need to create your agents. It's the infrastructure is abstracted away for you, so you can just go and code what you want. And they have all the LLMs in there, including now OpenAI models, because of their $50 billion deal with OpenAI. And they've been working with Anthropic here for years, like since they launched Bedrock. And in fact, Amazon and Anthropic have a big capital deal themselves, right? So Amazon is well positioned here with both of these frontier AI model developers, and they were working with Anthropic on the infrastructure side with Project Rainier. So when we see this reference to Project Rainier, sorry, is a data center, a big data center they're building together, right? So, and that's run on Amazon's Trainium 2 chips, right? So when they're talking about enterprise grade infrastructure for production workloads, and when they're talking about the inference compute, that's Amazon silicon that Anthropic is being trained on, being run on. The workloads are literally being delivered on the silicon. So that's part of what they mean here too, or how I'm reading it.
Yeah. So, question for you, Brian. So, for people who might not be familiar with, Amazon Bedrock's position, I guess, in the food chain, where would they sort of fit in comparison to, let's say, you have Amazon Bedrock? I'm pretty sure Amazon Bedrock is probably talking to MCPs, and that's how it is communicating to probably different models as well as the data that it needs. So it is going to communicate to different MCP offerings that LLMs are going to have, as well as the enterprise applications are going to have, right? So can you describe all three, LLM versus MCP versus Amazon Bedrock, and their role?
Right. So Bedrock is the platform to connect everything, do all the integration, access all your models, and run it all on the same infrastructure, right? So if you're a shop an enterprise that wants to do some customization around AI at some layer, Amazon's trying to be the platform where you do that, right? Right. Whether it's even training a model to be customized to your specific needs as an enterprise on your data, or a little bit further down the stack, if you just want to connect your data sources, your applications, and maybe you're running those on Amazon too, right? So now you're doing it all in the same infrastructure, and the LLM can even be hosted on Amazon if you're accessing it within Bedrock. So as Anthropic is, right? So you don't have to go out and add that extra hop to your workflow. You're all in the same trusted enterprise infrastructure, and that often helps simplify things in many ways. So it's one place. Yes, you're right. It can include MCP connections. It can include API integrations.
Yeah.
I'm sure all sorts of other integrations that I don't even know about. But whatever your workflow is that you have to construct and connect, they're giving you the tools to do that.
Yeah, it adds in some governance and other ways to build
Right, the
transparency,
guardrails
manage
feature.
guardrails, deterministic guardrails, that sort of thing, which you are seeing across Azure and in Google as well.
They are
The thing
working
I
on
really
similar
like
things,
about
Mike.
this, and especially seeing all the builder community that would be interested in having a unified location to work from, where now instead of trying to think about how do I take discrete parts and stitch them together, I now have a unified operating environment from which I can actually start to compose things.
Yeah.
And I think that has a lot of long-term benefits that allow us to play down the hype around AI, where we're now just offering good solutions to the people that are going to consume them and be able to have access to all the component parts that we would want to use as part of that environment. So I find that particularly compelling.
So, Ken, in your mind, the pricing and billing, I think that's going to be a substantial component as well, because we are looking at
Yes.
commercial offerings, right? So do you think that pricing and billing is going to be streamlined as well in this, or is it still going to be per solution, per vendor that you are trying to use?
I think that for people that are going to build on this,
Yeah.
that the pricing and billing is actually going to be incredibly important.
Yeah.
Because coming up with what your total cost of service is today a real pain in the tail when you start looking at all the different pieces and parts that you have to account for as part of your cost of service delivery. And I think that that's going to translate directly into being able to provide more pricing visibility into to what the customer would actually end up paying for whatever the end solution they are consuming.
Yeah, great points. Great points. If you don't have anything else, we can probably do a couple of more. All right, let's do one more. Okay, Blackline. Okay, a little bit into ERP category, I guess. So they are not necessarily ERP. They are more into financial consolidation play. They might call themselves as ERP. So they are doing agentic financial operations. Financial operations is the term that is being used in this particular space by a lot of different vendors that are doing similar things to close AI's governance and trust gap. And I don't know who should own this piece. It's still not clear at this point of time. If obviously, I have seen this particular trend with a lot of AI native vendors as well. They all are trying to claim that FinOps is probably the right term. That my friend Hyun Park, right? He used to use. He was really into that. Ken, I think you are into that as well, right? FinOps space. And again, I don't know if Blackline is trying to get into that, but a lot of AI native ERP vendors are trying to get into that as well. So I don't know how they are going to fight that battle. Who wins? I don't know. Okay, but these guys are launching that. And I don't know if Blackline only targets SaaS software, because FinOps is probably not going to be as relevant for any other micro industries. So here we are talking about trust and governance. Obviously, that's a big topic. And trust and governance is not necessarily going to be just limited to financial operations. It's a lot more and broader topic. And I think there are going to be a lot of different offerings. Here they are talking about providing the essential layer to the office of the CFO. Obviously, CFO is the stakeholder, but in my mind, it has to be more than CFO. Because IT buyers, and Brian, you are probably going to argue about that, okay, why is CIO not included in these conversations? From CFO perspective, yes, this is a real legal compliance issue from the data perspective, but there should be much bigger, problem. And in my personal opinion, CIOs should be looped in here. They are talking about something called glass box architecture. And I have no idea where that term comes from. I don't know if you guys have seen that, for the end-to-end financial processes.
I checked it out on their website here, Sam, because I was
Yeah.
curious about that too. Like, because I've heard the single pane of glass, which is one of the most overused euphemisms in enterprise software. And I'm like, now we've got a new one in glass box architecture. So they're trying to create that counterpoint to the black box,
Black
that
box, yeah.
we're used to, with AI making decisions that we can't figure out what they did or how they got to the answer. So they're saying we're not like that. We're a glass box because you can see it. You can have the observability that you need as an enterprise to maintain compliance.
Yeah, very interesting points and very interesting context as well. More comments, or I can keep going, I guess, with some more comments here.
Well, it is kind of interesting. They're sitting between two different issues, right? So they're kind of between this top layer of sort of AI native challengers, Trillion, FlowQuest, I think, Numeric.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you've got the Oracle, SAP, Workday moving into that from the opposite side. So I don't know, but hey, glassbox architecture. I mean, come on, that's a good one.
So Oracle, SAP, Michael, I don't think they like to operate in the financial operations space because that's a much narrower niche. And for the most part, I mean, this is more of the ISP play in my personal experience.
They are definitely. And just from the Oracle meeting this week, they in financial ops themselves. So things like close and managing that operation around finance, that is definitely something they're talking about in their ERP.
But they must be talking more from so they have ERP, they also have a real FP&A and CPM, and technically close should be there, right? So, but then there is another layer, which is because see, Blackline, the main advantage of Blackline is it does the real treasury management, the bank integration, all of those workflows. Now, Oracle may have some integration, but they don't like to get into that. But I mean, that's not their core because there is going to be a lot of bank politics. Sometimes banks actually offer that as well. So then they might not get traction from banks because bank is actually trying to retain that business as well. So there are going to be political elements. So that's why they don't like to get into that. And that's Blackline's main and core, business model for the most part. Right. But you have a great point there.
They're sitting between, and then you've got some of these other rollouts like Workday rolled out adaptive planning.
Yeah,
SAP Joule. Some of the other vendors are coming in with things that are at least adjacent. But
yeah, one more thought too, just on how similar Studio 360 is to Salesforce's new branding, Data 360, for exactly the same purpose in the platform. It sounds like the data foundation. The integration piece, because they reference Snowflake and Workday connectors here. So I was just curious that the industry is decided that 360 is the brand we need for like unifying agentic AI data layers.
Yes, so Brian, that's a very interesting point because like data term people use. They just overuse that. Okay, I think they have to define which data we are talking about. So from sales perspective, I mean, salespeople are not going to care for financial data. They might need a little bit of financial data, but the financial data that is going to be relevant for a CFO is going to be very different. If you try to expose that to a salesperson or a marketing person, they'll lose their mind, I guess. So here we are talking about real financial data. So everybody's talking about 360, but 360 is going to be from their perspective. So here it's really CFO's view, I guess, and Salesforce has nothing to do in that market.
No, you're right. Yeah, it's totally different. Salesforce doesn't necessarily have that product that targets the CFO as the primary customer. You're right.
Yeah. More comments, guys. Okay, we can probably do one more story. We still have some more time. Okay, so here we have another ERP vendor. This is Certinia. They used to be called Financial Force. And you might have a lot of background here, Michael, because you have done a lot of services-centric ERP, right? So here they are talking about Vida, and they have, is it Vida or Veda? I don't know.
I like Beta, but that's just me.
Yeah,
it sounds Star Wars-ish.
Yeah. So maybe it is Veda because that's probably coming from Hindi, I guess. Okay, so this is purpose built and domain specific. So I think a lot of companies are developing the AI operations engine. They have been doing a lot in the agentic space, but I mean, they are talking about, what automates staffing analysis, benchmarking, work reallocation. Obviously, there's a lot that can be done, and their category is really professional services automation, is how I like to define where Financial Force and Certinia they play. Um, they have done a lot of different announcements, and I don't know how this one is different from the other. Maybe they are simply maturing, I would say, compared to what they have done in the past, or maybe this is going to be slightly more cohesive compared to the patchy work that they have done in the past. So that would be my take, unless they are launching some sort of model. They are saying purpose-built and domain-specific model. So maybe they have trained something there. That could be a possibility. What do you guys
Yeah, I
think?
mean that's they seem to be moving, and I couldn't tell for sure about is this are they applying specific vertically tuned model, but it does seem like they're moving, and this is we've known this is an opportunity for a while, right? I mean, look at Deltek's been moving heavily in this direction. Um, Cantata, Workday,
Yeah.
PSA. I mean, there's a bunch of different, but NetSuite. There's a bunch of different players that have embedded agentic into the workflows around professional services and around staffing and
Yeah.
time management. And there's a bunch of different workflows that make a lot of sense to use agentic for. And it certainly does help from a resource manager perspective. So it looked to me like they were catching up with some of what I've seen from their competitors over the last 6-8 months.
Yeah, could not agree more. More comments, guys? No. I don't know if you guys want to close. We can wrap. We can probably talk about some fun stuff if you want to talk about that, or maybe we can have some sort of closing thoughts here. Brian, do you want to go first? We have a
I'm
lot of
happy
time,
to.
so you can spend easily a minute right now per person.
Yeah, a minute, so much time. Yeah. Just flipping through the press releases you collect here today, it's clear that companies know that agentic AI layer is critical to try to own. People are definitely worried about the shift in the focus of that. Where is work getting done in the enterprise? And it seems like it could be leaving this sort of SaaS layer that we built for ourselves over the last decade and a half. And is it going to the agentic layer? And where are we going to optimize that? Where are we going to build that? Where are we going to keep the observability and the governance? So there's this sort of new layer of enterprise tech that's emerging here, and companies are trying to position themselves to be a part of it.
Yeah, could not agree more. I mean, there is a lot happening, and everybody has to catch up. Overall from the product development plus, obviously marketing as well. Ken, your thoughts?
So the thing I've been just kind of chewing with over the past couple episodes, including this one, is really around the whole nature of the shift from AI as being the talk of the town to how AI now becomes part of the functional substrate that you're counting on in order to be able to deliver stuff that actually really delivers value to your end customer. So I'm not saying that it needs to get necessarily downplayed, but that where the focus will be more on is the value that you're delivering, as opposed to the fact that, oh yeah, we use AI. That's pretty much given at this point.
Yeah, and Robert would have loved that comment. I mean, he's big into value and customers. So thank you so much, Ken, for those
stepping in.
Exactly. Covering for Robert. He likes to talk about that, right? Michael, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I like I mentioned earlier, Sam, I was at the Oracle Analyst Summit this weekend and the NetSuite Summit. Yeah. And, they have moved heavily into this embedded agentic AI across all their applications, which is definitely where you're seeing all of the enterprise players move, and a lot of agents, a lot of functions into the processes and workflows. So, it was a good discussion, and you could definitely see they're putting out a pretty strong footprint around it. But kind of the other piece that I thought that jumped out at me was this concept around the pricing problems, right? The per seat pricing versus how do we do the consumption based models. And And in the NetSuite conversation, particularly, they came back with, well, we haven't changed our pricing at all, but if you push on it a little bit, you'll find that, and you have to contract directly with the model provider. So you are paying consumption-based pricing. You're just not paying it directly to NetSuite. You're paying that to Anthropic. So from a predictability standpoint, that's a complicated one from a CFO perspective, I think.
Yeah, that's a very interesting comment. And Robert, again, would have loved that because he likes to talk about pricing. I mean,
Yes,
every time he only wants to talk about pricing and change management, customers, and end value. Those 4 or 5 topics. All right, guys. So that's it for today. From my side, obviously, this is very exciting. Always we have very new developments and stories. Things are always changing. So it's always good to catch up what is happening in the market. Thank you so much for dialing in. This was Analysts Gone Wild. We meet every Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.